Hello everybody and welcome to the Future of Finance. I'm Jeffrey Young, CEO of DeepMacro. DeepMacro is a platform based on AI that gathers huge amounts of data on the global macroeconomy and extracts signals for the markets. It builds investment portfolios and currencies, rates, and asset allocation. It's all automated and it touches on all the major investment themes in the market right now, like inflation, how strong is the US economy, is China peaking, what's the Fed going to do? The entire system will have run by the time we finish this podcast. And today I have with me Oki Matsumoto, the founder and CEO of Monex Japan. It's the first and one of the largest online brokers in Japan, and it also owns the crypto exchange CoinCheck, which you bought in, I think it was 2018, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
I think Bitcoin was about, what, 6,000 then, something like that?
I guess so, yes. Yeah, something
Okay.
like that.
Right. Okay. So anyway, CoinCheck is the biggest crypto exchange in Japan. Revenues are somewhere in the 5 to 10% range of Coinbase's, I believe. Okay, thank you very much for being with us today. Um, and you come from a fixed income trading background, you then switched to online brokerage, which you founded, and then a few years ago you added crypto to that. Why did you do that? What was the motivation for adding crypto to that profile?
Well, I started somehow playing around with crypto back in like 2014 personally, but in 2017, the ICO became kind of hot.
Right.
And then I realized, oh my God, this is kind of a new form of the finance.
Hmm.
It reminded me of the derivatives in 1980s.
Hmm.
It's very kind of wild west,
Hmm.
lots of risks and many things uncertain,
Hmm.
and accounting, the legal and the technology and everything is still kind of immature.
Right.
But I saw the interesting opportunity rising from there.
Mm.
So I decided to go into the crypto/blockchain area
Right.
in 2017.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned it's early, and I think that if we think about a typical product, a consumer product, for example, they have an adoption cycle. You have early adopters who are often kind of fanatics, and then you have what some people call the early majority. They don't want to be the first, but they don't want to be the last. And then eventually you get the latecomers. So in that adoption cycle, where do you think we are right now?
I think still like kind of early adapter level.
Hmm.
It's still crypto is just owned and used by just very limited segment of people.
Right.
With CBDC coming up, and the things will change, and it will go much broader. But that we are still way before that.
Okay. That's interesting that you mentioned the CBDC or central bank digital currencies. My perception, I know that the Bank of Japan has experiments going on. The People's Bank of China has some pilot projects. I believe in Cambodia, a digital central bank currency is already circulating. There's quite a bit more activity in Asia than there is in the US or Europe. Is that true? And if so, why do you think we're seeing a lot of activity in Asia?
I think China has got ambition to try to become like a major currency in the cyber world. I mean, China is very big, and in the trade partners, I think China is bigger than the United States now over the world. But as once it comes down to settlement currency, it's US dollar.
Right.
Right? So it's basically US is kind of holding the neck of the China. I think China would like to somehow change it.
Hmm.
So introducing EU1
Hmm.
is, I think, one way of try to change that kind of framework.
I see. Okay. And other countries, just like when we think about fiat currencies in Asia, if the renminbi moves, Korean won, probably Japanese yen, a lot of the other currencies move too. Are we also seeing, because the PBOC is making this effort, that is kind of prompting a lot of the other Asian currencies to also do CBDC?
Well, you know better than me, but the small nations the currencies are just completely weak,
Mm,
fragile,
mm,
and a lot of dollarization going on,
mm,
right?
mm,
So I think Libra failed, but if something like a Libra,
mm,
if something like a EU1, any of those, yet another global currency
mm,
could try to replace those, the dollarization kind of thing
mhm.
in small countries. So I think, the small countries do have a natural, motivation
Mhm.
to create something rather than their own
Right,
fiat currency.
right. But I one thing though that's really interesting. I mean, normally we think of crypto as popular in countries that have that are unstable. They either have high inflation or political problems, or currency is collapsing. The other day, when Turkey replaced its central bank governor, we looked at Google Trends, where you can see the amount of searches that people are doing, and we looked for searches for Bitcoin out of Turkey, and of course they shot out up. But Japan is probably the most stable country on earth. It's probably too stable in a lot of ways. But there's still a lot of interest. So is there some weird barbell going on? Why do you think crypto is popular in Japan?
To me, and I think to many people, or could be to everybody, for example, Bitcoin is not really currency. It's more like an asset.
Hmm.
It's a digital asset.
Okay.
It's a very inflationary digital asset.
Hmm.
So with this, crazy money printing happening across the world,
Hmm.
in the States, in Japan, and everywhere, it's very natural for people to find attractiveness
Right.
in something like Bitcoin, whereby supply is limited, and that is
Right.
happening in Japan as well.
Okay, so it's a hedge. Central banks going crazy. It's a form of digital gold, just better than gold.
Yeah, or I could say the fiat is having a kind of reverse bubble
Hmm. Hmm.
because of the too much of supply.
Right.
In turn, the price tag
Sure.
of those limited supply, inflationary asset like Bitcoin or share
Right.
or real estate, their price tag going up.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So then let's think about how, if we're at the early adoption stage, and you mentioned that not many people use it, what about on the institutional side? At least in the US, there have been some pretty publicized cases of corporates.
Mhm.
We know MicroStrategy, Microsoft, some other companies have announced that they either hold it in their treasury, or maybe they're going to be accepting payments. MasterCard is going to be doing that. Um, Also, some institutional investors, it seems like every day there's more and more announcements. Would you say that that's also starting in Japan, or are we still really too early for that?
It's not starting at all in Japan.
Okay.
Unfortunately, in many cases, it's the same thing, same way.
Mm,
Retail in Japan are always much more advanced
mm,
than institutional investors,
mhm.
right? As of right now in Japan, the uh, FSA actually, officially uh, limited trust bank to custody crypto.
Okay.
They said you can't do that,
I see.
right?
Right.
So in the States, it's basically the banking sector is becoming a custodian for crypto, basically.
Right. Right.
That is not happening at all in Japan.
Right.
So the institutional investors are completely away from crypto in Japan.
I see.
That is too bad. That is too bad.
Okay. Well, actually, that leads me to something I wanted to ask about one of the first things you said about how crypto today reminds you of how fixed income trading was in the 1980s when it was very new. There were derivatives, the technology was being built, etc. It seems that a lot of the infrastructure of crypto is coming into place. Certainly
Mhm.
in the U.S. now, you just mentioned some regulatory problems in Japan, but there are derivatives now, or at least they seem to be coming into place. There are indices that will form the backbone of these derivatives. There are ways to extend credit. Managing risk, a lot of information systems coming up, payments, custodying, all that kind of stuff. I mean, is it true that we're really seeing the creation of an alternative infrastructure? Um, in other words, it's not just speculation in Bitcoin. We're seeing the actual nuts and bolts and building blocks of a parallel financial system being built.
I am not sure. The amount of the R&D put into those traditional infrastructure
Hmm.
are enormous.
Hmm.
How to detect the cons and
Right,
fraudulence,
sure, fraud.
uh,
Yeah.
that's so far different, right?
Uh-huh.
I think the blockchain, crypto, the framework is something very interesting and has got very high potential,
Hmm.
but it's gonna take time.
Right. So on a
And
scale of 1 to 10, are we at a 3, a 6? Two. Okay. Not even three. Okay. All right.
that is
Good.
what means actually, great potential,
Oh,
great
sure.
potential. Yeah.
Right. Got it. Okay. Then actually, a specific point of that I'm never quite clear about is leverage. Um, if people are just buying crypto with their own equity, even if the crypto price goes down, I don't think it would be a systemic problem for the global financial system. But if there is leverage, there could be. So, is activity that you see in trading, does it have a lot of leverage
In Japan,
overall?
well, I well, the question is tether the source of leverage?
Uh-huh. Okay.
And if it is, it's a huge leverage going on.
Right.
And if we don't count tether as the source of leverage, as a leverage, then maybe not much. And compared to the typical, traditional capital market,
Right.
maybe not. But
Okay.
tether, how you regard the tether
The
is
stable. Okay. Interesting. On the center banks, I wanted to kind of return to that because I think that there's some views that one reason why central banks are thinking about digital currencies is to reestablish control. In other words, governments want a monopoly on anything that looks like currency, even if we think that it's really more of an asset, not a currency, because it does have certain characteristics of a currency. And if its asset role grows and it becomes the adoption goes up the adoption curve, it could be more of a currency. And that's something, a monopoly power that governments don't want to give up. I mean, do you think that is the future? Let's go forward quite a ways. We have infrastructure, et cetera. Is there going to be some kind of detente between, or will crypto be able to coexist with these central bank digital currencies?
I think you have to really clearly separate the digital currency and the digital asset.
Okay.
Bitcoin is a digital asset. CBDC is a digital currency.
Hmm.
The whole tax implication, the treatment, everything is different.
Right.
So Bitcoin will never become a digital currency.
Okay.
It stays as an asset. And then CBDC, central bank digital currency, that's born to be the currency.
Right.
And there's no detent. We don't need a detent because from the beginning, it is fiat.
Right.
So those two things are completely separate, I think.
I see. Right. So that's actually an important point. A central bank digital currency is a fiat currency in digital form, is what
Right.
right? Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So we see that the Bitcoin price going up. You will never see the CBDC price will go up.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
that's just a currency.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I often like to think about, what could go wrong, because it's a technology. A lot of people don't understand the core technology. I can't say that I understand it thoroughly. Maybe you want to answer, it's possible, it's not possible, it's unlikely, it could happen. But you know, people, think about, for example, a 51% attack where miners get together. Is that possible? Not possible? Super unlikely? What would you say?
For Bitcoin, not possible, I think.
Okay. Um, could governments tax it to the point that it just is not really that attractive as an asset?
Government should tax like crypto asset, but
Mm,
I think they should come up with a better ideas.
mm,
You remember, Jeff, back in like 30 years ago in Japan,
mm.
we had that utilize,
Yeah.
that tax
Transaction.
on tax on the transaction
Trans
principal amount.
Yep.
Instead of like a 20% capital gain, but just a 1% of the notional.
Right.
That kind of taxing is actually more intellectual or making sense for crypto trading, I think.
Okay.
But people won't know where they became to own that crypto,
I see. Okay.
right? So it's hard to know the original price.
Hmm.
So just taxing on the notional, the transaction
Hmm.
would be better. So we should see those kind of more innovative or rational treatment in
Hmm.
tax for crypto.
Okay. All right. What about environmental problems? There's a lot of
Mm.
people talking about that. Is that enough to crash to really significantly impede to reduce the adoption?
I don't think so. I think the miners use electricity when they are cheap,
Hmm.
right? So miners tend to use electricity which if not used would be just thrown away.
Hmm.
So I think a mining thing, uh, someone could say miner mining consumption of electricity is something percentage of the entire consumption of the world.
Right.
Mining will not increase the amount of generation of electricity
Hmm.
because I think mining is happening always. How do you say using excess supply?
Hmm. Okay.
It's not creating a demand.
Got it. Okay. All right. What about, I mean, I read an interesting article about people can put sort of irrelevant things on the crypto blockchains, like political statements, that once they're there, because it's a blockchain, you can't get rid of them. And that would cause certain governments to say, you can't use this. Is this possible?
Possible, but I don't see the rational reason to do that. I mean, you can do savory good thing, solid thing using paper,
Uh-huh. Okay. So a
right?
lot of these things, a lot of the potential problems, I think your point is that it also applies to paper currency as well as it does crypto.
Yep, that's
Okay.
true.
Okay, very good. Anything else that keeps you awake at night uh, about crypto?
Mm, well, volatility is always a friend of. I mean, I used to be a trader. I'm still like a fund manager, and I trade a lot as well. The volatility is enemy as well as a friend.
Right.
And I do want to continue to see the volatility in this market.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I think the crypto has got the kind of lots of interesting stamina
Hmm.
keep to keep market going. So it might create some problems, but I think it's a good problem.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, well, great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your insights. I should probably answer the questions about that I said DeepMacro can answer at the beginning. We think inflation is going up, but not going to skyrocket. US economy is booming, and it's going to be super strong this year. China has not peaked, and the Fed will do very little in the near term, but they will have to end their pandemic policy because as every month goes by, it's going to be apparent that the economy is no longer in a pandemic, even though
Mhm.
we still have COVID. So that's what the deep macro system is saying right now. Anyway, thanks a lot, Oki, for being with us. Really
Okay.
appreciate it. Very
Okay.
interesting, and yeah, good luck with the crypto.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks a
See
lot.
you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
The content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained in this material constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by DeepMacro Incorporated or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments in this or in any other jurisdiction in which such solicitation or offer would be unlawful under the securities laws of such jurisdiction. All content is information of a general nature and does not address the circumstances of any particular individual or entity. None of the information constitutes professional and/or financial advice, nor does any of the information constitute a comprehensive or complete statement of the matters discussed or the law relating thereto. There are risks associated with investing. Loss of principal is possible. Some high-risk investments may use leverage, which will accentuate gains and losses of securities or firms. Past investment performance is not a guarantee or predictor of future investment performance.